And back for more showtime. Okay, Aaron, let's pick up where we left off. What we were going to talk about is, okay, here's what's happening in the schools is really positive. Notwithstanding the budget crisis, the lack of money, there are all kinds of good things happening in the public sector education in California. Talk to me, tell me.
So I don't want to belittle the pain that's being caused right now by these two major trends we've discussed. Proposition 13 and the underfunding of public education and the tragedy of the commons. These are very, very difficult, very sticky problems. But at the same time, I don't want to paint a pessimistic picture of what's going on in California schools. There are incredible teams of professionals and parents and students.
What are they really doing to deal with this crisis?
I think President Obama said it best. When the 2008 housing crisis hit the economy, President Obama said, famously, never let a good crisis go to waste. And what he meant by that was, crises force us to change the way that we do business. And in the public education system, that means that a funding crisis forces us to reevaluate the decisions we're making about how best to run a school, and maybe to make some of those decisions differently. Now, of course, you always want resources when you're talking about education and providing a better life for our students. You always want more resources. But a pressure on resources can force schools to have hard conversations and make tough decisions about the smartest ways to move forward. Now,
tell me a little bit, what are some smart ways, in your opinion? I understand it's just one person talking. What are some smart ways to move forward that would change the way that work was done in the educational system?
So we see three major trends happening right now in education that have been at least fueled in part by this lack of resources that in the long run will be good for education. Now, the first major trend we see is schools putting a lot more effort into building parent communities and building groups of parents and committees of parents to come together and volunteer in schools, get engaged actively in their students' education, and replace a lot of the classroom support roles that unfortunately have been underfunded. So say you might have had a classroom aide in a third grade classroom. Due to budget cuts, unfortunately, you had to cut that position. So now as a school principal or as a teacher, you go out into your parent community and you're very active about bringing parent volunteers back into the school. Now that is not an easy thing to do. It is not an easy thing to do, but it's very important. All of the data and studies show that parent involvement in education increases a child's chance of being a successful student.
Okay, so that's one trend that's big and important.
That's the first trend. The second trend you see, which is definitely more controversial, is schools taking a more careful look at where their most effective programs are. What do we offer as a school that works the best to educate students? Now, there's no way to talk about what programs are effective without talking about standardized testing. Standardized testing in California is an extremely controversial way of evaluating whether or not programs are effective. And you will find people on both sides of the issue vehemently saying that standardized testing is the only way to move education forward and that standardized testing is a travesty and forces us to concentrate on all the wrong things. Personally, I do not think that a reliance on standardized testing is best for students. I think it plays an important role in identifying what schools need to concentrate on, what strengths teachers have, and what challenges they have and opportunities they have to improve their teaching style. Different teachers are good at teaching different parts of the curriculum, and it's important for those teachers to have hard data to guide them to work on those parts of the curriculum that they need more development around. Some teachers might be really good at math while they need a little more help in the English area. Some might be great at English when they need a little more help in math. And tests provide a great feedback method for them to get better teaching.
Okay, so that's a second trend. Have we got any other trends that are coming that are ways positively to deal with the education crisis?
Absolutely. So
Tell me.
For the last 20 years, computers have been finding their way into the public school system.
Okay.
In any public school in California, you will now find either computers in the classroom or computers in a computer lab somewhere on the computer campus where students can go to learn about how to interact with technology. However, these computers have been used to teach a specific set of skills in the past, computing skills, which are very important for the workplace, but they have not been they've not been used to teach integrated curriculum that lines up with what those students are learning in the classroom. So American public schools have not in any systematic fashion relied on computers to directly supplement the math, English, science, history instruction that kids are getting in the classroom.
So in other words, you're saying they go to the computer lab and they learn how to type, they learn how to manipulate things on a screen, but they don't really supplement their arithmetic?
Well, sometimes kids have used these computers to play mathematics games.
Okay.
Number Crunchers has been around since I was a little kid. Sometimes they'll use reading programs, or they'll be on a site like Encyclopedia Britannica learning about what's going on in the world.
Right.
Sometimes they'll be accessing news sites. That said, this technology has never been integrated into the curriculum in a way where what's going on the computer and what's going on in the classroom directly line up and reinforce each other.
And you see that happening now? Are people trying to make that happen?
So there's two giant trends in education technology right now. One is called adaptive learning, or one-to-one instruction. And the other giant trend is called homeschool learning. Now, the first one I'm going to talk about is adaptive learning, one-to-one instruction. Now, what adaptive learning means is that the newest generation of computer learning software can actually tell what a student's good at and where a student needs help. The computer program will present information, maybe a lesson about math or reading, and then it will ask the student a set of questions about what that student understood and what that student needs more help with. Based on the way that student responds to those questions, how long it takes the student to answer, what questions they get right, and what opportunities exist, that computer program can tailor the software to deliver what that student needs.
Okay.
So it can actually change the lesson in real time, and this could be pictures the student's seeing, there could be audio or video associated with this, animation or an interactive video game.
Sounds huge. So that's one. That's
Absolutely.
adaptive, one-on-one. And then
That's
two?
adaptive one-on-one instruction. Well, there's another important part of adaptive instruction
okay.
that I should talk about. The other important aspect of adaptive instruction that's really big right now is that these adaptive software programs give the teacher of that student in that classroom real-time feedback about what that student's learning rapidly and what that student needs more help with. So no longer is the experience of learning on the computer and learning in the classroom completely detached, as they've been for many years. Now the teacher is informed by what's going on the computer, and the teacher has control over what that student sees on the computer. So the computer can give information to the teacher about what the student needs help with, and the teacher can actually give information to the computer to tell the software what to focus on with that individual student.
Got it.
So there's interaction between what's going on the
huge.
computer and in the classroom.
Got it.
This is very big, and it's on the cutting edge of what's going on in educational
Got it.
technology.
Wow. Okay. Now I begin to see what the work in education is going to look like over the next decade. The second big trend in technology.
The second big trend in technology is what's called homeschool learning. Now, right now, there's a lot of theories about where students should do their learning. So traditionally, students have done most of their learning in the classroom,
Right.
and homework has been designed to supplement that learning or give the students practice at theories they may have developed in the classroom.
Okay.
There's a lot of theories and there's a lot of research right now showing that the time the student spends at home is absolutely critical to their educational success. So whether or not that student is working on homework, on a group project, on a learning software program, or maybe watching TV or playing video games or hanging out with friends can have a huge impact on how quickly that student learns important skills. So the other really big trend right now is what they're calling top-to-bottom learning solutions. And this means that you can have one integrated learning experience that starts at 8:30 in the morning when you get into school, but that continues after you go home. So say a student's using an internet-based program to do some learning in classroom in this one-on-one or adaptive model we
Right.
talked about. Well, that kid gets off school at 3:30 and they go home. Provided that kid has access to a computer or internet access, which is not a given by
Right.
any means.
Right.
2 in 5 American families still have no internet access right now. That is changing, however. We can talk about that in a minute. And actually, it's important to say that that internet access is not distributed evenly across economic areas. It's not distributed evenly across demographic areas. Most American families that are not connected to the internet are not connected because they don't have students, frankly, or because it's senior citizens living in a family setting.
Oh, okay.
So the demographics are surprising. However, that said, there are a number of marginalized American communities that are still struggling to find the resources to bring
Sure.
the internet into their home.
Sure.
Now, if a student has access to the internet, they can carry an integrative learning experience from the classroom into their home. They can continue working on exactly the same lessons they have. If they don't have internet experience, in November, Comcast, in combination with the FCC, passed a new bill that will actually, it's called Connect to Compete. This new bill actually provides broadband internet service for $10 a month to students who qualify for free and reduced lunches under the Title I program.
Got it.
So if a student's family falls at or below the federal poverty line, that student doesn't have to pay for his lunch on a daily basis.
Aaron, I want to break in. We've now talked really about, I think, how schools are going to redevelop, recreate the learning process over the next decade. I want to do one last bite of information with you on a separate interview about, I guess, the privatization, the charter movement. Are private schools going to overwhelm public schools, and where's the real power and control going to be with the government, with students, with teachers, with parents? We'll talk about that in the next one.